How many times in your life have you said to yourself, why does this keep happening to me? Like, why me? Poor me. Let me tell you something very crystal clear. You are not a victim of life. You are the cause of it, all of it. Every thought you allow, every choice you make, every emotion you feed, it doesn't just stay inside you, it ripples out. It shapes your reality in ways that you don't always see right away, but you always feel the results. Right? We're talking about the Hermetic principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing is random. Nothing is without origin. So if your life feels out of control, if your relationships keep repeating the same patterns, if your progress always stalls, this is not bad luck. It's not karma. It's a structure that you set in motion, either consciously or unconsciously. Right? And the great thing about this is, if you're the cause of, say, for example, the chaos in your life, then you can become the cause of the breakthrough. And this video is a blueprint to do exactly that. Right, we'll discuss why 99% of people live as effects, active, passive, duck, and how to become the conscious cause, the conscious creator of your own reality. How to shift patterns at the root, not just to manage the symptoms, and why mastering this principle gives you the ultimate leverage in health, money, purpose, power, happiness. This is about awareness and tactical alignment with one of the most powerful laws in the universe. And I know this law very well because up until about 40 years old, I thought that shit just happened to me and none of it was my fault. I was the perfect definition of someone living with a victim mentality, right? I'd get clean for a short amount of time, then I'd sabotage it. I'd build momentum in the gym and then I'd just piss it all away, right? I'd try to help people and I'd end up drained and broke. And every single time I think, why does this shit keep happening to me? Right? Why me? Right, but I wasn't asking the right questions. It wasn't, why is this happening to me? It should have been, what choices, what beliefs and behaviours am I putting into motion that's creating all of this? Right, because when I finally got real with myself, when I got honest, I saw the pattern, right? And that pattern had a cause, me. I was the common denominator in all of it. I was the one who was staying up late, getting smashed, drunk, numbing out, ignoring all the signs. I was the one saying yes when I should have been saying no. I was the one pissing my money away, not honouring my time, not treating my energy like it actually mattered. I was living as the effect of my old wounds, old conditioning, old habits, and then calling it fate. And the more that I travelled down this personal development journey or this spiritual journey, the more that I avoided this truth. I'd say that the universe is testing me. This is all part of the divine plan, divine timing. Right, but really, I was still playing small, right? Passive, reactive. I was waiting for things to shift without being the one to actually start the shift. Right? And the real turning point came when I finally felt and understood the truth of the principle of cause and effect. Right? Not just as a concept, but I felt it deep within me. Right? And it wasn't just this light bulb moment. It was a slow, gradual process. I kept making mistakes. Right? But I only started learning from them once I became aware of what I was actually doing wrong. Okay, and for most of my life, I was unaware. I was living unconsciously on autopilot. So I'd repeat the same cycles again and again, make the same decisions, fall into the same patterns, and then tell myself the same victim story. Why does this keep happening to me? Poor me. Right? I wasn't living a life that I was creating. I was just living a life by chance. It wasn't life doing it for me. It was me living in ignorance of the laws that govern reality. And one of the biggest tools that helped me wake up was the book called The Kabbalion. And I've shared this before. But not just reading it once like some self-help checklist. I had to study it. I had to sit with it. I had to live it. I had to make mistakes, then come back to the principles and see where I had violated the laws. And that's how knowledge becomes wisdom, when you apply it. And that's what I want to pass on to you today. Because once I finally understood the principle of cause and effect, I realised that everything in my life, my money struggles, my failed relationships, my addiction, my anxiety, my depression, right? None of it was random. It wasn't personal. It was mechanical. It was like a formula. Input equals output. Cause equals effect. And that's when shit changed for me, right? I stopped listening to my own excuses and negotiating with them. I started to understand and track my energy. I started to create and honour a structure in my life. And most importantly, I stopped saying, I'll do this someday, and I started doing shit right in the now moment. Okay, I started to take full responsibility and radical ownership of my life, not just for the goals that I said that I wanted, right? Not for just for the life that I was trying to manifest, but for the patterns I kept repeating, even when I'd said I'd outgrown them. Right, and I'll give you some examples, okay? I always said that I wanted financial freedom, but see, when I looked at my spending, it was emotional. When I was in sales, I made amazing money. I made a lot of money, but I was always broke because I would blow it just as fast as I made it on distractions, gambling, alcohol, drugs, clothes to validate myself, watches, cars, just numbing from the pressure. And then I would wonder why I was stuck in this loop of scarcity. Okay, the cause was emotional spending, no structure, guilt. Right, the effect, I was broke, stressed, ashamed. Right, and then when I got sober, I said that I wanted to serve and help people, but I'd give away my energy without boundaries. I'd undercharge, I'd overgive, I'd avoid asking for money. And why? Because I still had a story that wanting more money made me less spiritual. So I kept burning out while calling it service. Right? So the cause was that the guilt around money, lack of value exchange, the effect, exhaustion, resentment, and no growth. Right? I said I was done self-sabotaging, but I kept neglecting the basics. My sleep, my structure, my training, right? I'd get momentum, then I would skip the small habits, then I would spiral back, telling myself I'd lost it again. Right? The cause was the lack of discipline in the unseen hours, the effect, collapse in the visible ones. Right? And it was sobering, right? For lack of a better word, because every one of those outcomes, the chaos, the burnout, the lack, the confusion, they weren't bad luck. They were results of my choices, my beliefs, my state. And once I saw that, I could not unsee it. Right? And that's when I stopped looking for the magic hacks, the quick fixes, and I started looking at the man in the mirror. Right? That's when I stopped thinking that the universe was punishing me. And I started seeing that I was the one broadcasting the frequency that created all of my results. Right? And as I said, this didn't happen overnight, but over time, I became the cause, right, of more order, more alignment, more freedom. Not because I fixed everything at one time, but because I started acting like my actions actually mattered. Right? And that's when the shift happened. Right? Not in the world around me, but it happened deep within me. Okay? Because you're not unlucky. You're unaware of what you've been causing. Right? What you believe, you repeat. What you repeat, you become. Right? And unfortunately, most men think that life is happening to them. But psychology tells us otherwise. It says it's happening through them. Right? On autopilot. Right? So every belief you hold, especially the unconscious ones, they create a chain reaction. For example, you believe, like I did, I'm not good enough. You feel anxious, small, or fake. Right? So then you act with hesitation or overcompensation. Right? You get poor results or burn out. And then you say, I knew I would fail. Boom, the belief is locked in even deeper. Now, this loop isn't random. It's not because your boss, your wife, or the universe is testing you. It's cause and effect on repeat. And until you change the origin point of the loop, your core belief, you'll stay stuck in that same movie. Right? See, every repeated effect eventually becomes part of your identity. That's why it's not enough to want a new life. You must cause a new identity. Right? And as it says in the Kabbalion, nothing happens by chance. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. What looks random is simply a cause you haven't seen yet. Right? And this acts out in science. If you look at Newton's third law of motion, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, that is a basic truth in physics. Right? If you plant a seed, something will grow. Right? You live inside this law. Every choice, habit, or word has a ripple. Right? And then if you look at neuroplasticity, right, neuroscience has proven what the ancient Hermetics knew all along. Every thought physically rewires your brain. Every repeated thought creates neural pathways. Every neural pathway influences your perception. Every shift in perception changes your decision. Every decision creates your reality. right? Dr. Joe Dispenza, read his books, they're amazing, right? His research, it shows that when you change your internal state consistently, you literally become a different person neurologically within 30 days, right? You're not trying to change your life, you're trying to change the mechanism, your brain, right, that creates your reality, right? That creates your life. Now, this isn't, some metaphysics speculation. This is actually measurable biology. Your thoughts are electromagnetic frequencies. Your emotions are chemical cascades. Your beliefs are hardwired neural networks. You're not separate from the field of consciousness. You are the field, localized in this human form. And even if you look at cognitive behavioral therapy, right, this is something that I've done myself when I was trying to get sober, right? And they map out the cause and effect, right? So thought, feeling, behavior, result, right? So if you don't like your life, the result, then you have to go upstream to the thought, which is the cause. And this is not about positive thinking. It's about owning your internal dialogue, right? Because that is a creative engine. Okay, and your thoughts create your reality, right? And this is proved in many different fields. And even if you look at chaos theory and the butterfly effect, right? This blows my mind, right? And it shows you that even in chaos there's structure, right? A butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil and a storm appears in Texas, right? So this means unseen actions today can shape your future massively. Now, this isn't spiritual woo-woo bullshit, right? This is real. It's physics, it's biology, it's real life. Your life is being built moment by moment, right? By causes that you set in motion. Nobody else. You are, the buck stops with you. And if we look at this principle of cause and effect, right? It reveals something massive, right? There is only one cause, consciousness itself. Everything else is an effect within an effect within an effect. Right? As I said, you are not in the universe, you are the universe. Experience itself subjectively through the lens of your nervous system. So when you identify with your personality, your circumstances, or your history, you're identifying with the effects. But when you remember yourself as pure consciousness, you step into your role as the first cause. Right? This is what spiritually awakening actually is. It's not a one time experience you have, but the recognition of what you are. Right? You are the wave remembering it's the ocean. Right? And when you, from this point, right, creation becomes effortless. You stop trying to manipulate effects and you start embodying causes. Energy is always creating and the universe is always responding. Right? And in the Hermetic philosophy, the law of cause and effect is non-negotiable. It governs everything. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. So what does that mean? No one is lucky. No one is cursed. No one is chosen. Everything is creating. Every thought that you indulge in is a seed. Every choice is a frequency. Every moment of fear, avoidance, or dishonesty is a signal that you send to the field. Right? And then that field responds perfectly, right? What you put out comes back. Not always instantly, not always clearly, but always accurately. If you feel life is shit, right? It's not that life is punishing you, it's the energetic cause hasn't changed. Once you embody that, you no longer react to life, you initiate it, right? You don't control the world, you control the cause within it. Right, and if you look at what the Stoics, right, the Stoics didn't believe in chance either. They believed in the logos, the divine rational order behind all things. Okay, to them, suffering wasn't random; it was caused by wrong perception, by resisting reality instead of aligning with it. Okay, and Marcus Aurelius, he understood this, very, very deeply. Okay, confine yourself to the present. Why? Because the present moment is the only place where you can be the cause of something new. Makes sense, doesn't it? Right? And the Stoics, they practice the Stoics practice what they called the discipline of assent. Right? The practice of choosing which thoughts to energize and which to dismiss. Right? They understood that thoughts are causes and undisciplined thinking creates undisciplined results. Right? What did Epictetus say? It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This isn't positive thinking, it's recognition that your response is always the next cause in the chain. Right? So the Stoic masters, they don't try to control effects, right? In Stoicism, the root of power is internal responsibility, not blaming the market, blaming your childhood, blaming your partner, blaming your boss, blaming your president, blaming the energy. No, right? It's by asking what thought, what assumption, what choice caused this? And then, what choice do I make now? Right? The moment you stop seeking justice out there and start taking command in here, you become undeniable. Right? And then if we look at Eastern warrior wisdom, right, in the East, the question isn't what caused this, it's what did I create? Right? The samurais trained for one reason, to align inner clarity with outer motion. Not to win every battle, but to make sure every move was clean, true, and caused from intention, not chaos. Right? When the Tao Te Ching, they speak of the Wu Wei acting in accordance with natural flow. But this isn't passivity, it's the highest form of causation. The Master Swordsman doesn't force his technique. He becomes so aligned with the principles of combat that his movements arise spontaneously from perfect positioning. Right? And in Zen, they say you are perfect as you are, and you could use a little improvement. Right? This paradox points to the truth. You are already the perfect causal mechanism, right? Consciousness itself, but your conditioning, your unconscious program, that needs refinement, right? The warrior's path is not about adding something to yourself. It's about removing everything that isn't you, all the unconscious causes that create suffering, until only pure conscious action remains. Right? So there you have it. Psychology shows what you repeat, you believe, you deserve. Neuroscience shows your brain automates old outcomes unless you intervene. And in spirituality, your energy is the root cause. Stoicism is complete ownership, right? Ownership of choice as power. And then the Eastern wisdom, the action and outcome are one movement. Both start with inner alignment. And you're not waiting for life to change. You're creating it every single moment. Okay, and you're not experiencing random effects. You're experiencing unconscious causes that have finally reached maturity. And if you don't like the outcome, stop reacting to them. Go upstream, shift the cause. Because in this universe, as I said, there's no luck, there is no accident, there is only law. And the second you start to live like that and step into that, you stop being the victim of the game and you start becoming the man who creates the rules. Okay? And if you want to understand it even deeper, let's look at some simple explanations of symbolism, right? If you look at the wind and the leaves, right? So imagine you're standing in a forest, right? And there's leaves all blowing around you. Some are soft, some going wild, and most people focus on the leaves, but they miss the wind. So the wind is the cause of the movement of the leaves, right? And the movement of the leaves is the effect. So your thoughts, your beliefs, and emotion, that's the wind. Your bank account, your health, your relationships, those are the leaves. If you want different leaves, stop blaming the forest. Change the wind, okay? And if you look at the light bulb analogy, right? A light bulb turning on is an effect, but the cause is invisible. It's the flow of electricity through the circuit. So in life, the things that you can see, success, failure, fulfillment, fear, are the light bulb. But the current, the real causes are your thoughts, emotions, decisions, and unconscious programs running beneath the surface. Right? And understanding this will change your life. So let's look at some practical applications in everyday life. Right? So if we're looking at overcoming procrastination using cause and effect. Right, most people sit on the couch looking at a task or the to-do list, like, for example, launching a YouTube channel, writing that book, applying for a new job, going to the gym, and they're just saying, I'm just lazy, I need more motivation, right? But the truth is, laziness is not a cause, it's an effect. There's always something upstream. So let's look at some of the real causes behind the effect of procrastination, right? So let's look at this one, fear of failure, avoidance, right? So, like me, I kept putting off my YouTube channel, right? Every time you go to sit down to plan it, you suddenly feel tired. You tell yourself, I'll start when I feel better, or my message is clearer. But if you pause and trace the cause, you're actually scared that if you do this, no one's going to watch. And it will confirm your fear of not being good enough. So the real cause is fear of rejection or humiliation. The effect is procrastination dressed up as perfectionism. Right? So the next time something like that happens, right? Name the fear. Don't bypass it. Then take a micro action anyway. Film a 1 minute voice note on your phone. Right? That action is a new cause. The ripple effect, confidence, clarity, momentum. Okay? And then look at indecision. You keep, maybe you want to get fit and get in shape, right? So you're looking at these fitness programs online. Okay, and you're looking through all these different options. You're looking at reviews, YouTube reviews, online reviews, and you're like, I just can't decide. But if you zoom out, you're overloaded with input. Your nervous system is fried, right? You've drowned your intuition. So the real cause isn't confusion, it's too much consumption. The effect is decision paralysis, right? So what you, in this situation, unplug, go out for a 20-minute walk in nature with no phone, right? And then ask yourself, what option actually feels aligned with my values right now? And then make the decisions from that, right? Don't rely on external, come from within. Okay, let's look at finding clarity, right, when you're stuck. So you're feeling foggy, lost, or you're just unsure about your next step. So that feeling, that's an effect, not the cause. Right, so instead of trying to fight that fogginess, lostness, investigate where it's came from. Okay, so it could be too much input, like you're thinking it's causing confusion, right? So you've been binge watching content on how to start a business. You've read 20 books, 13 blog posts, 4 guru newsletters, and now you're just overwhelmed. And you think to yourself, I need to learn more. But at that point, your brain is full. You're mentally constipated. The cause, information overload. The effects, paralysis and indecision. So what you want to do here is you want to pause the consumption. You want to go analog here. Take a notebook and write, what do I actually want? Right? What excites me? What can I test this week? Right? The new cause. Clarity starts returning. Okay? And if we look at doubt, because doubt is when you're ignoring your intuition. Right? You've made a decision that looks good on paper, a job, maybe a relationship, a project, but something feels off. You feel anxious, you feel uncertain, you feel all over the place. The cause, you ignored your gut in favour of the should and logic. The effect, inner conflict and second guessing. Right? What do you do now? You go back to your journal and you write, you ask yourself, what was my body be saying before I committed? When have I ignored my gut before? And what happened? Right? That reflection creates a new cause, self-trust. And the self-trust will then breed clarity. Okay? And let's look at money, right? Because this is something that a lot of people struggle with. Right? Wealth is not magic, it's mathematics. It's not luck, it's a result of repeated intentional causes. Okay, and I'll break down some real life examples here that I've went through. Money just disappears. Right? I don't know where my money goes. It's gone before the month ends. Right? That's an effect. Right, so I would blame everything else, inflation, bills, fuel, I'd blame everything. But if you trace the cause, okay, and it normally shows up, no spending awareness. For me, it was emotional purchases to cope with the stress or the boredom, and no clear plan for income and outcomes, right? So instead of blaming the outcome, become the initiator, right? So track your expenses for 30 days, identify your emotional spending triggers, and create a weekly money data to review your finances. These small causes will ripple into a new effect: clarity, control, confidence. And a big one is the people's beliefs about money. Okay. Most people don't realize their thoughts about money are generating long-term financial effects. Okay. If you look at some of these everyday money beliefs, right? So money is hard to come by, right? So what do you do? So that's the cause. Money is hard to come by. The effects, you undercharge, you hesitate to ask for a raise, right? Another one, rich people are greedy, right? So that's the cause, the effect, you subconsciously sabotage more earnings, right? Another cause, I'm not good with money. So the effect is you avoid learning, budgeting, or investing, right? Another one, I don't deserve wealth. You give too much away, right? You overspend to feel worthy, right? So what you want to do is you want to grab a journal and you ask yourself, what was I taught about money as a child? What did I experience about money as a child? And then ask yourself, is that belief true? Right? Who would I be without it? and replace that belief with a new intentional thought. Money flows to those who create value and receive it openly. Okay, because money is just an exchange of energy, right, and value, right, and that becomes your new cause. Over time, it will shift your results. It's time for us to move from the unconscious reactor to the conscious initiator, because most people live as life is happening to them, right? They react to moods, they chase dopamine, they justify poor results with bad luck, wrong timing. Well, that's just who I am. But if you want to adopt a new identity, the identity of an awakened savage, every effect I experience has a cause. I am the cause of my causes. That means no more waiting, no more blaming, no more hoping that clarity, momentum, or abundance will just magically show up. Right? You stop asking yourself, why do I feel stuck? Why don't I have what I want yet? Why does this keep happening to me? And you start asking or saying to yourself, what patterns am I repeating? What thoughts am I energizing? What invisible causes am I feeding with my attention, my action, or my inaction? Okay, that's the man who's no longer ruled by affect. He plants seeds on purpose. He moves with intention. He trains his mind, his body, and his emotions to generate specific outcomes, not through force, but through awareness and responsibility. Okay, he sees that tension in the relationship is not just how relationships are, it's a pattern of defensiveness, avoidance, or a lack of presence. Right? And if your finances are all fucked up, that's not bad luck. It's untracked spending, avoidance of value creation, or a scarcity loop rooted from in childhood. And the more that you live by this principle, the less reactive, the less needy, the less chaotic life becomes. Right? This is when you become predictable in discipline, unshakable in vision, grounded in emotional mastery, because the world around you isn't random anymore. It's responsive. Okay, and let's jump into some tools for your toolbox. Right, so it's about becoming the cause, right, and ending this victim cycle. So every day, start your day with one question. What effect do I want to create today? And what is the cause I must be? So instead of checking your phone first thing, sit down with your journal and answer the questions. What state do I want to live in today? Right? Who do I need to be to create that state? What's one action I can take right now to be that man? It's that simple. Right? So, for example, if you want more peace, be the cause. Set your alarm 30 minutes earlier. Stretch. Do some breath work before everyone wakes up. Right? Be the cause. Right? Send that message. Speak with presence. Look people in their eyes. Okay? And the second one, track the chain. Right? So, pick one area of your life that feels out of alignment, out of control right now. It could be money, energy, habits, relationships, right? Then trace the chain of the cause and effect that led you to this place. Ask yourself, what repeated thought or belief drove this? What actions or lack of actions followed? Right? What was the original trigger? Right? So, for example, you keep snapping at your kids after work, okay? It's not your kid's fault. The real cause is you skipped lunch, doom scrolling during your breaks, and maybe you have a big meeting that you didn't decompress after, right? So you're all stressed out. So you come home and you take it out on your kids, right? So before you go in to that house, understand who the man that you want to be in front of those kids. So if you're walking into that door, before you go in, say, who am I showing up as? I'm going to show up as a present, amazing father. And you go in and you be that man. Right? You stop judging the effect and you start mastering the input. Okay? Number three, change one root cause. Don't fix the result, change the pattern. Right? So now that you've tracked the chain, let's go upstream. Okay? For example, if low energy is the effect, right, and you're up at doom scrolling to 1 o'clock in the morning is the cause, then the new move is at 9 p.m. shut down all phones. Start reading a book. Start listening to a meditation. Right? It's not about trying harder to have more energy. It's about changing the seed you're planting the night before. Right? These tiny changes, at the origin, they ripple into big, massive effects downstream. You cause everything. Okay, number four, create a positive loop. Okay, let success cause more success. So identify one habit that gives you momentum and do it every single day, even in small doses. Right, this could be 10-minute silence in the morning, right before speaking to anyone. It could be a cold shower right after waking up. It could be 100 burpees or 50 push-ups, whatever it is. Every aligned action is a cause that trains your identity. You become the man who starts, follows through, and finishes. Right, and the last one, just a daily check-in. Okay, at night time, ask yourself, what effect did I experience today? What did I cause consciously? What did I allow unconsciously? Write it down, no shame, just pure awareness. Right? For example, you planned to hit the gym, right? But you skipped it. Okay, the cause was you didn't prep your clothes the night before, right? So your new action tomorrow, lay your gear out the night before you go to sleep. Right? This keeps the law of cause and effect front of mind until it becomes how you live. This isn't about controlling everything. It's about waking up to the truth that you are causing far more than you realize. Most people just drift through life. They don't choose, right? They react, they don't initiate, and they wait, right? But it's about becoming aware that you are the cause. They don't just understand the principle of cause and effect. Live it like it's law because it is. Every thought, every choice, every action is either a seed of your future or a repeat of your past. Right? You can't keep calling things random. You can't keep blaming the economy, your childhood, your boss, your ex, your circumstances. Right? It's time to accept what most people won't. You are the initiator of everything. You are the cause of everything. You are the unseen force shaping all these visible results. Right? And that's what separates the leaders from the victims, the savages from the sleepwalkers. Right? So let me tell you this. It's not too late. You're not broken. You're not at the mercy of life. You are the cause and your future is the effect. Right? If you got any value from this today, drop a wee like, give me a comment. If you want to follow me on this journey, subscribe and hit the notification bell and even rewatch the episode. But this time get a journal, take some notes, right? And take one conscious action today that creates a different future for you tomorrow. Right? This isn't just about me trying to motivate you. This is me trying to help you understand that you have the power to create a life beyond your wildest dreams. It's time to wake up and become the savage you were born to be. Right? And as always, thank you for being on this journey with me. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. I'll catch you on the next one. I've got a video here and you can subscribe here. Take care.